Sophia here. I never truly understood the weight of silence until that family gathering. The table was full, laughter resonating around me, but I felt distant, as if I were observing from a dark corner of the room. An overwhelming anxiety surged in my chest, a familiar storm brewing. With a nervous smile, I joined the group, yet felt invisible, floating in a realm that never felt like mine. During dinner, the conversations danced lightly across the surface, drifting like leaves on the wind, masking the deeper truths of our family dynamics. My father, always passive, stared down at his plate, lost in his thoughts, while my mother's critical eye roamed the room. "Why haven't you found a stable job, Sophia? Freelancing is so unreliable," she remarked sharply. Her words struck me like a blow. Each mention of my name felt like an avalanche of unmet expectations crashing down upon me. In that moment, echoes of my childhood resurfaced, the sensation of being a shadow, always contorting myself to make her proud. As laughter faded, an eerie silence enveloped me. The phrase floated back into my mind, softly but insistently. "In the silence of neglect, I found the voice of my true self." These words infiltrated my consciousness, reminding me of a promise I had forgotten. Heat surged through my cheeks, coupled with a familiar wave of insecurity. Why did I still allow her opinions to wound me? I realized my reactions were rooted not just in the present, but in painful family patterns etched since my youth. Those memories flashed before me, moments seeking my parents' attention only to meet indifference or criticism. Returning home that night, my thoughts spiraled. I recalled small instances, my attempts to earn recognition overshadowed by my older brother, the perfect child, leaving me to grasp for approval. The poignant question hovered, why did I feel so empty? That evening marked the dawning of a new cycle. Looking into the mirror, I didn't just see the adult woman before me, but also the invisible girl who had long gone unheard. The longing to unearth my soul's silent screams grew. I refused to linger in the shadows any longer. I wanted to discover the light hidden beneath layers of denial and pain. Jung's ideas began to intertwine with my thoughts, revealing that this journey was about integrating my past, not fleeing from it. I understood then that my experiences could be reframed. I yearned to connect with the essence of who I truly was, a voice I had silenced for too long. The whispering phrase became a beacon amid the fog, igniting hope. In the silence of neglect, I found the voice of my true self. This journey was just beginning, each step a brave exploration into the unknown and a committed stride toward healing. As I settled into my writing nook, memories began to unfurl like petals of a long-buried flower, unveiling the roots of my pain. Closing my eyes, I allowed myself to be swept back through time, confronting a cascade of feelings that had shaped my understanding of love and worthiness. Each recollection brought forth images of my childhood, where the longing for attention had morphed into a silent companion, and neglect had become a suffocating blanket. I could vividly recall afternoons spent on the living room carpet, surrounded by toys that lay untouched, merely props in a scene where I felt invisible. My parents were so consumed by their lives that my own aspirations withered in obscurity. As my older brother basked in the spotlight, often praised for his many achievements, I stood in the background, yearning for just a fragment of their attention. "Why can't you be more like your brother, Sophia?" The words stung, reverberating in the silence of my heart. Each mention of my name echoed a sense of failure, reinforcing the belief that I had to excel to earn love. The mantra echoed relentlessly throughout my childhood. Time and again, I watched my brother effortlessly shine, while I trudged forward, striving and sweating, merely trying to keep up. Fleeting memories resurfaced, the joy on his face as he crossed the finish line first in every race, while I received polite applause for showing up. I learned to excel just enough to avoid criticism, but never enough to bask in true acknowledgement. Over the years, my heart ached for validation, while a painful realization morphed into a core belief. I must achieve to be worthy. The little girl within felt unseen, gazing wistfully at family gatherings where laughter rang through the air like music I couldn't join. I often recall a poignant day in fourth grade when I dared to share a drawing, a vibrant picture that reflected my imagination. With shaky hands, I presented my artwork, hoping for recognition. But my mother's expression faltered as she remarked, "Sophia, it's nice, but can't you draw something more like your brother?" In that single breath, my creativity dimmed, retreating into the shadows of silence where it would remain hidden for years. That pivotal moment crystallized my understanding of love as conditional, tangled in the need for accomplishments rather than being rooted in my worth as a person. The message was clear. I would only be seen if I achieved, only be loved if I succeeded. I became a chameleon, adapting and performing, desperately seeking approval while burying my true self deeper beneath layers of expectations. Reflecting on these formative experiences unearthed the limiting beliefs that shaped my self-worth. My emotional landscape was riddled with anxiety and self-doubt, an intricate maze built from years of suppressing my true self. I felt like a performer trapped in the grand theater of life, stuck between the role of Sophia, the devoted daughter, and the raw, vulnerable girl hidden backstage. It was amid this chaos that the flicker of Jungian thought ignited within me, illuminating pathways to healing. I realized that I had evaded my own needs for far too long. I had silenced the girl who once dared to dream. Understanding had dawned on me. This journey wasn't merely about healing the present. It was about reclaiming that lost child, nurturing her with compassion rather than neglect. With a surge of determination, I began to write. I turned to my journal, pouring wine into words, documenting the memories that had become too painful to articulate. Each page became a conduit for my truest feelings, and as I revisited the memories, I allowed the girl within to speak. The process was daunting, yet liberating. I chronicled each moment, discovering emotions wrapped in guilt and inadequacy I had long suppressed. As the ink flowed, I felt something shift. Acceptance began to blossom. I embraced my past with gentleness and began to create space for the little girl's laughter and tears, the spirits who made me whole. Each word and expression transformed my narrative, allowing me to view my past as the soil from which I could grow rather than chains that bound me. Through this exploration, I discovered that my roots, once buried in shame, were essential for my journey toward healing. I began to redefine my identity. I could emerge not just as a reflection of my family's expectations, but as a vibrant tapestry woven from experiences, dreams, and aspirations. The seeds of change were firmly planted within me. I no longer saw the shadows of my childhood as mere burdens, but as enriching elements of my journey, the very fabric of my resilience. With renewed vitality, I reaffirmed my commitment to break free from prior expectations, nurturing the voice I had silenced for too long. In this emerging light, I felt a growing desire to connect with the essence of who I truly was, and the whispering phrase, "In the silence of neglect, I found the voice of my true self," transformed into a rallying cry. Each step taken on this path was a courageous exploration into the unknown, a commitment toward healing, the beginning of a journey where I would finally embrace my worthiness beyond accomplishments, honoring the unfiltered beauty of my existence. It was on a chilly morning that my path began to shift, sparked by the wisdom of Jung. Snuggling into my favorite armchair with a steaming cup of tea, I opened the pages of a book recommended by a dear friend titled The Inner World of Childhood. The words flowed like a river, each concept resonating with the deep rhythms of my heart, bridging the chasm between my past and my present. Jung's ideas of the shadow and the inner child unfolded before me, painting a picture of my hidden self. As I read about the shadow, our neglected emotions and unacknowledged aspects, I felt a wave of recognition wash over me. I had carried this weight for years, a deep-seated belief that I was unworthy of love, unless I achieved something monumental. It struck me in that moment that connecting with my inner child was essential. She, too, yearned for recognition and validation. The more I explored Jung's concepts, the clearer my own patterns became. I realized that my tendency to self-sabotage stemmed from the unacknowledged hurt of my past. The voices of my parents, laden with their insecurities, echoed in my mind, insisting that I would only be valued for my accomplishments. It was time to break that cycle. In order to grow into the person you are meant to be, Jung wrote, you must confront the shadow. These words sparked a flicker of courage buried beneath years of fear. Emboldened by this insight, I turned to my journal with a newfound purpose, treating it as sacred space. Each day I poured my feelings onto the page, allowing the girl within me to speak. Initially, it felt daunting, unraveling years of discomfort and shame, but I persisted, coaxing out emotions I had buried deep under layers of guilt and inadequacy. As the ink flowed, I felt a shift within, a sense of acceptance blossoming like a flower seeking the sun. One morning, a forgotten memory surfaced vividly. I recalled a day from my childhood when I sat in the backyard, drawing my kingdom in the dirt with sticks and stones. I had felt a rare spark of joy, an escape from the confines of family expectations. My mother's distant calls faded into the background, lost in the gentle rustle of leaves. The moment was pure freedom, a fleeting taste of authenticity I had long since lost. Remembering this gave me power. The little girl within me was still alive, still longing to express herself. I made a pact with her. I would no longer dismiss her dreams, nor allow the shadows of my upbringing to stifle my light. This commitment set my heart ablaze with ambition. I needed to nurture this part of myself. Integrating Jung's teachings into my life was transformative. I began attending workshops and writing groups, sharing stories and discovering the healing potential in vulnerability. The context of my past was shifting from a weight to something more like a foundation, a platform from which to explore my identity. I started diving headfirst into my creativity, reclaiming tools of expression I had once feared would draw ridicule. As I embraced these new avenues, I noted Jung's perspective on individuation, the process of integrating one's shadow and reconciling various aspects of self. The idea that each piece of me, the hidden, the joyous, the imperfect, was necessary for my wholeness, became a guiding principle on my journey. With each page of my journal, I stitched together a new narrative, a tapestry rich with threads of joy, sorrow, and resilience. Conversations with my therapist revealed deeper layers to this work. It's as if Jung has given me a map, I shared, explaining how my exploration of the past illuminated both scars and hidden strengths. She encouraged me to honor those strengths, to guide them into the light instead of allowing them to fade into obscurity. Over time, the lessons began to crystallize. Healing was not a destination I would arrive at, but a continuous journey, a spiral marking growth through layers of understanding. The echoes of neglect were transforming, no longer stifling. Instead, they were giving birth to a sense of empowerment and self-love. Each morning, as I continued to write and reflect, I felt the child within me rising, reclaiming her voice. The shadows became companions rather than adversaries. They were tokens of resilience that served as reminders of how far I had come. With Jung as my guide, I embarked on this transformative path, ready to confront my fears and awaken my true self. I could finally feel the light shining through the cracks in my past, illuminating a path forward, one defined not by past limitations, but by newfound possibilities. Each day, I stepped into this journey filled with hope, courageously facing the unknown, committed to uncovering and celebrating the profound beauty of my existence. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself diving deeper into the insights I had gained from Jung, embarking on the profound journey of self-discovery. The initial thrill of his teachings was evolving into a necessary confrontation, a reckoning with the shadow that I had long avoided and the complexes that shaped my reality. Through journaling, I began to acknowledge the complexities of my inner world, most notably the inadequacy complex. This complex manifested as that nagging voice whispering, "I would never be enough." Each time I faced a challenge, it became all too familiar, reminding me of my childhood comparisons with my brother. I recalled how his achievements, celebrated loudly, left me feeling perpetually overshadowed. The relentless message that whispered I would only be valued if I excelled began to crystallize in my mind as a painful truth. In a moment of clarity, I recognized the inadequacy complex's powerful grip on my self-worth. It often reared its head in situations where I felt I might disappoint anyone. A significant experience came to mind: a local writers' group meeting. I hesitated before sharing my work, believing my words wouldn't resonate. Yet, as I read aloud, something unexpected occurred. Rather than silence myself with doubt, I felt a stirring of courage arise. The group's warm feedback validated my efforts, teaching me that by addressing my fears, I could reclaim my power. Therapy became an essential foundation for this confrontational work. I unearthed experiences from my past, and with each session, I laid bare more pieces of myself. One poignant moment surfaced when I recounted how I had learned to retreat emotionally whenever disagreements erupted at home. Learning to disappear in conflict took root within me, ultimately constructing walls that distanced me from my authentic feelings. My therapist encouraged me to visualize my younger self during those times. What does she need from you now? Imaging that child surged with renewed energy and emotion. I wish someone would just listen. I realized she longed for validation, something I had often denied her to keep peace in my home. Diving deeper to confront my shadow became a transformative ritual. Each journal entry drew me closer to understanding that my inner critic was merely the echo of old family dynamics, an unwelcome guest that had overstayed its welcome. Rather than fearing this shadow, I began to embrace it, discovering that understanding its origins brought clarity to its presence. I started to perceive it not as an enemy, but as a key to my growth. One evening, I created a dialogue between myself and my inner child. "What do you long to say?" I wrote, and almost immediately, words flowed forth. "I wish you would trust me. I wish you would let me play." I was struck by the resonance of these feelings. The simple desire for joy and creativity spoke to the core of my being. This realization became a turning point, igniting a promise to myself. I would no longer dismiss the yearnings of that child within. With this newfound insight, I began infusing playfulness into my life. I sought activities that nourished my spirit, from sliding into vibrant colors on canvas to dancing freely in my living room. Each act became a celebration, a way to reconnect with the creativity that had long been stifled. I began attending workshops focused on holistic expression, giving voice to lingering feelings through art therapy. Reclaiming these playful aspects of life transformed my experience. It was freedom incarnate. The call to confront my family's emotional legacy came next. Inspired by Jung's teachings, I penned a heartfelt letter to my mother, meticulously articulating the pain of feeling unseen throughout my childhood. It was cathartic to express my memories of neglect, to articulate my longing for acknowledgement. "I need you to know how your words affected me," I wrote, choosing honesty over fear. This act of writing became a liberating release rather than a burden to bear. In sharing my story, I empowered myself to redefine the narrative surrounding my upbringing. I understood that I was not seeking her approval. I was seeking my voice and autonomy that had been subjugated for far too long. Weeks turned into months as I deepened my exploration of self through conscious introspection. I transformed the act of looking inward from a daunting experience into one that filled me with gratitude. Each confrontation with my fears unveiled a path toward liberation. I found that this journey was not about eradicating my past, but about honoring it, recognizing it as foundational to my identity. With every journaling session, I crafted a narrative that included all. I began integrating the complexity of my experiences, weaving them into a rich tapestry where every thread played a crucial role. I embraced not only the moments of joy, but also the struggles and shadows, recognizing them as sources of resilience. In the warmth of this acceptance, I encountered my shadow not with trepidation, but with curiosity. What lessons could it teach me? How could its pain fuel my growth? I learned that my vulnerabilities do not diminish my strength. Rather, they form an intricate part of the richness of my humanity. By leaning into the discomfort, I discovered something beautiful. The light that shone through the cracks of my past signaled hope. This illumination paved a path forward, one defined by newfound possibilities, where limitations no longer held power over me. I had embarked on a journey toward authenticity, heart in hand, ready to face every experience as integral to my ongoing narrative. As I embraced the complex aspects of myself, the journey transformed into not just healing but thriving. I found courage alongside compassion, empowerment alongside vulnerability. I was not simply uncovering the essence of who I was, but embarking on the adventure of becoming, fully ready to embrace life in all its diversity, honoring the full spectrum of my voice and experience. As weeks turned into months, I felt a significant shift deep within me, a critical transition from mere reflection to decisive action. My journey was no longer just about healing. It was about integration and embracing authenticity. My insights from Jung had crystallized into a clear desire. I wanted to live my truth, unabashedly and fully. One sunny afternoon, as I sipped tea in my cozy nook, gratitude washed over me like a warm tide. I reflected on how I had transformed from a victim of my past into a creator of my narrative. I was ready to actively engage in my life, rather than merely go through the motions. Each moment of growth had reinforced a powerful revelation. I was deserving of love and connection, just as I was, without earning it through performance. Drawing on Jung's concept of individuation, the journey of integrating various aspects of oneself, I knew now that my past was not a burden, but a foundation upon which I could build a stronger, more authentic self. With this clarity, I began to map out my path. A critical first step was establishing personal boundaries, creating defined lines to safeguard my evolving self from the negativity of old patterns. It meant learning to say no when necessary and prioritizing my own well-being over external expectations. The opportunity for this decisive action arose unexpectedly during a visit to my family's home. Anxiety usually accompanied these gatherings, but this time felt different. This time I was prepared. I steeled myself with the knowledge that I was worthy and that the opinions of others no longer dictated my self-worth. Seated around the dining table, the usual chatter flowed, punctuated by my mother's familiar concerns. "Why don't you look for a real job, Sophia?" she queried, her tone a mix of worry and criticism. Instead of shrinking away, I felt an unfamiliar courage rise within me. I took a deep breath and projected my voice clearly. "Mom, I appreciate your concern, but my freelance work is deeply meaningful to me. It fulfills my creative ambitions, and I don't measure my worth through conventional metrics." Silence enveloped the table momentarily, a stark contrast to the usual familial banter. I felt vulnerable, but also empowered, aware that I was reclaiming my narrative. As I looked around, my brother nodded in support, and an unexpected warmth filled the room. The conversation shifted as my family began to engage with my creative journey rather than criticize it. That evening, I returned home with a sense of liberation. I had crossed a threshold from mere survival to active engagement in my life. I could forge connections based on my truth, and the sense of accomplishment buoyed my spirit. With this significant turning point, I turned my attention to integrating the insights I had gained. Each day became a practice in authenticity. I committed to checking in with myself regularly. I asked myself what I truly needed, what activities brought me joy, and how could I honor myself in daily life. The answers varied. Some days called for creative explorations, while others required restful solitude. With these practices in place, I embraced discomfort as a part of my ongoing journey. I faced residual feelings of self-doubt that occasionally surfaced, especially when I was met with challenges. Am I good enough? That familiar question would echo. But I now understood that these feelings stemmed from the past. I was ready to challenge them. I turned to my journal, rewriting the negative dialogue and transforming it into affirmations that resonated with my heart. I am enough. My path deserves to unfold beautifully, with all its complexities. With each affirmation written, I felt my internal dialogue shift. I felt empowered to shape my reality, rather than succumb to old narratives. A pivotal moment approached when a solid job opportunity emerged, an enticing full-time position that promised financial stability at the cost of creative freedom. It presented a lifeline, yet I feared it might gradually suffocate the vibrant spark I had worked tirelessly to reclaim. For days, I vacillated between excitement and anxiety over the decision. I envisioned my future, contemplating authenticity in my career. Clarity emerged. I understood that dedicating myself to a passion, though uncertain, aligned with my core values. I knew I could not prioritize financial security over my sense of self. After much contemplation, I made my decision. I declined the job, reaffirming my commitment to freelance work and the creative freedom it allowed. The moment felt liberating, a buoyancy lifting me into a newfound confidence. I was choosing authenticity over security, a promise to prioritize the essence of who I was becoming. With each passing day, I authored a vibrant, personal narrative. I began to create not just from necessity, but from joy, fulfilling the promises I made to myself to explore my creativity without hesitation or fear of judgment. I organized a small exhibit showcasing my work, a heartfelt gathering of friends and kindred spirits to celebrate my journey as an artist. The night of the exhibit, the air buzzed with excitement as I shared my creations. Surrounded by supportive faces, I felt a swell of pride. I was home in every sense of the word. I had taken ownership of my story. As the event concluded, I recognized that healing wasn't about erasing my past. Instead, it was a process of honoring those experiences. I was no longer defined by the words that once silenced me. I had transformed them into the foundation of my resilience. In every affirmation, every act of creative expression, and every boundary I established, I found courage and compassion intertwined. Each step became a celebration of my journey, an adventure in becoming, where vulnerability was a strength, and my voice would no longer be marginalized. As I stood at the crossroads of choice and intention, I realized that my past could coexist with the vibrant authenticity I was cultivating. I firmly believed in my ability to navigate the journey ahead, embodying both the light and the shadows that shaped me. I was ready to embrace life in all its diversity, cherishing my unique story and embracing every facet of who I was, fully alive and unapologetically me. With the exhibit behind me, an exhilarating sense of freedom enveloped my spirit, a feeling that I was only beginning to explore what it truly meant to live authentically. The connections I had fostered during the exhibit sparked a renewed commitment to expanding this newfound authenticity in every aspect of my life. I realized that embracing my true self needed to become a consistent practice, a daily engagement with both light and shadow. Eager to solidify these changes, I developed a plan that integrated new habits into my routines. Mornings became sacred. I carved out time for a gratitude ritual, where I reflected on what brought me joy and how I could nourish my creativity. I would light a candle, sip herbal tea, and visualize my intentions, not only in my art, but also in my relationships and how I wish to show up in the world. My experiences taught me the importance of community. I decided to share my journey further by launching a blog. This platform became a space for open conversations about healing, creativity, and vulnerability. Each post was an invitation for others to explore their shadows and embark on their paths toward authenticity. I wanted to create an environment where everyone felt empowered to share their stories without fear of judgment. As I shared my experiences, the blog resonated with many. Readers began connecting with my journey, sharing their own stories of struggle and triumph. I was humbled to witness how vulnerability could spark connection, inspiring me to embrace my truth even more fiercely. Encouraged by the positive feedback, I organized monthly workshops, creating a supportive space where participants could engage in creative expression. I introduced activities that allowed them to confront their shadows and recognize the strength that arose from vulnerability. With each gathering, I felt invigorated by the laughter and exploration that filled the room. Yet my path was not without its challenges. There were moments when self-doubt reared its head. Individuals criticized my work, or I would be tempted to fall back into old patterns of insecurity. I learned to embrace these challenges as opportunities for growth. Each confrontation became a chance to reinforce my commitment to living authentically. One evening during a workshop, a participant approached me with tears in her eyes. "Your story has changed the way I view my own," she confessed. "I didn't think I could share my truth so openly." In that moment, I realized the mission of my journey. It was not just about my own healing. It was about creating a ripple effect, where shared stories fostered healing in others. As the weeks progressed, I immersed myself in creative pursuits that sparked joy. Painting returned to my life, with each stroke on canvas becoming an act of liberation. I sought inspiration outdoors, where nature walks infused me with peace and mindfulness. Each day, I breathed in gratitude, relishing the present rather than fixating on past scars. My relationships evolved as well. Friends began to witness the real me, putting aside my past persona as the perfect daughter. We shared deeper conversations, exploring our insecurities and lifting each other through our vulnerabilities. I realized that genuine connection blossomed when we allowed ourselves to be fully seen and accepted. Enhanced by my commitment to authenticity, I practiced establishing boundaries. When a friend made a dismissive comment about my creative endeavors, I felt the confidence I had cultivated. I appreciate your feedback, but my work is deeply personal to me. I need your support, I asserted, surprised at my own strength. This moment reinforced the power of authenticity and assertiveness as essential expressions of self-love. The culmination of these practices arrived with a retreat I organized, a weekend filled with reflection, creativity, and community building. Participants arrived eager to partake in a journey of shared experience. Under the stars, we exchanged stories, engaging in art that responded to our personal narratives. I facilitated discussions on the transformative nature of shadow work, guiding attendees as they confronted their inner critics. As the retreat reached its conclusion, I felt a profound sense of gratitude and possibility. I had come so far, embracing the authenticity I cherished. I no longer viewed my past as a burden, but as a rich tapestry from which my resilience sprang. Through every affirmation, every creative act, and every properly set boundary, I discovered a dance between courage and compassion. Standing at the crossroads of choice and intention, I realized my past could coexist with the vibrant authenticity I had cultivated. I embodied both the light and shadows that shaped me, ready to explore life's complexities fully. This journey to authenticity became a path to celebrate every facet of my identity, not just the joyful moments, but also the struggles that contributed to my growth. Embracing this personal freedom felt like a rebirth. I learned that the practice of freedom is not just an act, but an ongoing commitment to living authentically and generously. With each passing day, I stepped further into this new narrative, fully alive and unapologetically me. I was ready to continue exploring the depths of my creativity, fueled by my past, while looking forward to the rich potential of the future. Each step I took reaffirmed my commitment to be the author of my own story, celebrating the journey itself as much as the destination. As the seasons shifted, so did my understanding of what it meant to truly thrive. The retreat had been a pivotal moment, but it was also the beginning of a more profound journey. I had transformed from merely surviving into fully embracing the richness of life, recognizing that my past experiences laid the foundation for my ongoing growth. Through my blog, I created a vibrant community that resonated with many. It became a space for sharing stories about healing and creativity, where vulnerability was celebrated rather than feared. As readers reached out, I realized how interconnected our journeys were. We shared not only struggles but triumphs, illuminating the power of collective healing. Encouraged by the positive response, I began organizing monthly workshops where participants could explore their creativity in a supportive environment. I introduced art and writing, exercises aimed at confronting inner critics and nurturing expressive freedom. Each session was filled with laughter and exploration, reinforcing the importance of community in our healing processes. Yet, this path was not without challenges. Moments of self-doubt occasionally surfaced, triggered by external criticisms or lingering insecurities. I learned to view these instances as opportunities for growth rather than setbacks. Each time I confronted a fear, I deepened my commitment to my authentic self. One evening during a workshop, a participant approached me, visibly moved. "Your story has empowered me to share my own," she said tearfully. Hearing her words cemented my realization. My journey was not solely about my personal healing. It was about inspiring others to love and accept themselves too. As I ventured further into my creative pursuits, I rekindled my love for painting. Each brushstroke became an emotional release, allowing me to channel my feelings into something tangible. I found solace in nature, taking walks that inspired mindful reflection. With each moment of gratitude, I felt more connected to the canvas of life, reveling in the vibrancy that surrounded me. My relationships evolved as well, transforming from superficial connections to deep, meaningful bonds. Friends began to witness the genuine me, and together we fostered rich discussions about our vulnerabilities. I realized that authentic relationships allow us to flourish, and that shared vulnerability becomes the cornerstone of true connection. Strengthening my boundaries became a crucial part of this new identity. When I faced dismissive comments about my creative work, I called them out assertively. I appreciate your feedback, but my journey is deeply personal, and I need support, not critique. These moments reinforce the significance of speaking my truth. The culmination of my efforts resulted in a transformative retreat that I organized, a weekend filled with creativity, reflection, and building community. Participants engaged in art that spoke to their personal narratives, and under the expansive sky, we exchanged stories of triumph and pain. I led discussions focused on shadow work, guiding them to confront their inner critics. As the retreat concluded, I was overwhelmed with gratitude. I had come so far on my journey toward authenticity and realized my past no longer defined me. Instead, it became a rich tapestry of resilience to draw upon, emphasizing that every challenge faced led me to this moment. Standing at the intersection of my history and future, I understood that my unique story was a strength, reflecting both my joy and struggles. Embracing this legacy felt like a rebirth, a commitment to live authentically and generously. Filled with this newfound conviction, I stepped into the world with excitement, ready to explore my creativity further and connect deeply with others. I was not just a survivor, I was thriving in every sense. Each step reaffirmed my commitment to be the author of my own narrative, celebrating not just the destination, but the beauty of the journey along the way. I was living fully, unapologetically me, ready to inspire others to do the same.